Well, welcome everyone. It's great to have you here today. This is our second annual Apex, and it's just really exciting to see out in the lobby just all of the great work done by students. It's really just amazing to see what many of you are doing here at the University of Dubuque, and also what that work could do for you as you move out into your life after life here at UD. My name is Dr. Mark Ward. I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the College, and I'm glad to welcome you here today, and I'm especially glad to welcome someone who plays a large role in our work here at the university in student-faculty research. One of the unique programs we have at the university is a program called the Clappity Summer Fellowship Program. It's in its third year of operation, and all 3 years it's been led by Dr. Adam Hoffman. And so I'm going to ask Dr. Hoffman to come up and tell us more about what we're going to hear today. Thanks.
So thank you, Dr. Ward, and thank you all today. And first, I'd like to start off by asking for a round of applause for the Apex planning team and stuff for the fantastic job out there, the cookies especially. So thank you. So today, it's my pleasure to introduce the first four speakers. It's a great cross-section of the work done by the 15 Clappity Summer Fellows this past year. The Clappity Summer Fellowship Program was created to help University of Dubuque students achieve their graduate and/or professional school goals. The program is a three-headed monster consisting of scholarly activity with an advisor or advisors, networking with professionals in the field, as well as preparation for graduate and professional school tests. The four student presentations today will show that Alex, Andy, Lauren, and Tyson are fabulous researchers. But I've interacted with these folks in classes, in the Clappity Fellowship Program, in the Went Character Initiative, and in other capacities on campus. And what won't be apparent, perhaps, during their talks, but something that is just as important, is that these are four fantastic people as well. So these are top-notch people doing top-notch things. So up first on the docket today is Alex Beck. Alex is a Maquoketa, Iowa native who is majoring in marketing and minoring in international travel. So this, of course, is a minor that does not exist. But it is more plausible than one of the minors that was pitched to me by one of my advisees. So they asked, if I take one more geology class, I'll have 20 credits with a professor to be named, or that I want to keep nameless. And then only half joking, they continued, is it possible to minor in Dale Easley? So I quickly informed them, thank goodness it was not. So Alex's goals and aspirations in life are to travel the world and understand the way people live, why they live like they do, and to embrace the lifestyle for the times there. So Alex's project that he'll be reporting on today examines why folks in Dubuque live like they do in regards to recycling and composting. Eventually, Alex would like to become a college professor, allowing him to work with students entering the world searching for their identity. On the top of Alex's bucket list is to make it to all 7 continents by the time he himself gets recycled. And I'm happy to report that Alex is nearly halfway to that goal. So please join me in welcoming Alex as he tells us about his project. That's enough.
Thanks, Dr. Hoffman. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Beck. As he said, I did research this past summer, and my project was called the Smarter Discards Pilot Study, which is a connection with the city of Dubuque, and I'll explain a little in the next few slides what that means in more detail. So a little background. This pilot study was a partnership between the city of Dubuque and IBM Research, and it's another branch of Sustainable Dubuque. And Sustainable Dubuque it's almost a program in itself that strives to have various pilot studies and then also increase the awareness and participation in a sustainable and healthy way of life. And it's focused on waste, recycling, food scraps, and composting in general. And I had the pleasure of working with Paul Schultz, who was the resource management coordinator for the city of Dubuque. And this is a picture of him on the left, obviously. And some of the things that we focused on were food scrap management, which was a new program that came to the City of Dubuque Public Works Department just a few years ago. so that the city could collect curbside collection for food scraps. And we also worked on volunteer recruiting, which I'll explain a little later. There was a volunteer program with this research. We also had the opportunity to work with him with some of his staff and some of the day-to-day operations with the city of Dubuque. And then also I had a lot of educational experiences with him. He's very knowledgeable on composting, sustainability, and environmental practices in general. And one of the quotes that Dr. Hoffman and I have found very interesting that he presented was probably the first couple days was, "It's not waste until it's wasted." So one of his main examples was you could have food in the fridge for a long time that's expired, but until you throw it away, it's not wasted. And I think it's a really good point because there's a lot of things that could apply to that quote. And during this fellowship, I had the opportunity to work with him on a food scrap management flyer. As I said, this was just a recent program they introduced, and there's this is the front, and then I'll show you the back in a second. But some of these things are pictures and information that I was involved with, and let's see here. On the bottom left shows what's allowed in their food scrap management program. So this was sent out to over 23,000 residents in the city of Dubuque so that they were well aware of what the food scrap curbside collection program consisted of and then what they needed to know about it. And then here's the back side of it, which has some very interesting statistics on it. So in the top of the page there, it says, you might not be able to read it, it says the program is estimated to save the city $33,000 per year by introducing this food scrap program. And part of the reason for that, they joined with a partnership with Full Circle Organics, which is a composting company out of Farley, originally out of Minnesota, but one of their locations moved to Farley. And they accept up to 39 tons per day of food scraps as opposed to the city having a cap, I believe, of 5 tons. So they definitely were able to expand much further than they ever anticipated. And then in the bottom left, you can see there's a few charts there. And the second one says there was 42,974 pounds, and that consisted of the 3 universities in Dubuque. So Clark, Loras, and UD. And those are just phenomenal numbers to me. I'm not sure if that means the same to you, but 42,000 pounds of food scraps and compostable products is quite a large number, and it's continuously growing. And with this flyer, hopefully the awareness level has gone up and people have become more interested and hopefully motivated to participate in it as well. So the Smarter Discard and Sustainable Dubuque goals. Over a period of 12 months, we hope to improve and measure trend lines in landfill diversion rates and curbside recycling rates of residential discards to help achieve Dubuque's sustainability commitments. And as you can see in the bottom right there, in the Sustainable Dubuque logo, it says viable, livable, and equitable. So there's various components to their practices, and this was just a large focus on environmental, but it applied to economical aspects as well and social. So it kind of combined everything that there is within sustainability. And then Smarter Sustainable Dubuque's goal is designed to provide Dubuque residents with the information and tools they need to make smarter choices about resource consumption. So they kind of went hand in hand together, and it really made into a great project. Some of the other objectives was to measure and help improve trends in landfill diversion to aid the city of Dubuque, and biggest thing was to reduce the greenhouse gases and methane amounts as much as possible within, I believe their goal was 2050, they would like to. And second goal was to help inform the city of Dubuque the needs related to current as well as future policies, staffing, and equipment issues related to discard management. And part of that was their introduction of food scraps and curbside collection. The third goal was to help make the case for some recommended program and policy changes in the fiscal year 2015 in their resource management budget, which is obviously not here yet, but some of these practices and data that they've collected in this pilot study will be applied to that. And the fourth goal was to aid the city of Dubuque in saving valuable resources, including time, landfill space, energy, money, and discarded materials. And then Dr. Hoffman and I's objectives specifically with this project was to create and analyze a survey for smarter discard participants to help make the case for some program and policy recommendations for their resource budget. And I will explain that a little bit. And our second goal was we aim to explore what methods might be effective to increase sustainable residential behaviors to divert their biomass and organic materials in the form of food scraps, using collection opportunities to anaerobic digestion or composting. So there wasn't just one main focus in this project. It was really a combination of everything, which is very interesting. Some of the methods that we used, some of the data that was collected was through RFID tags, which is, it's almost like a tracking tag, and it was placed onto various recycling bins, refuse carts, and then food scrap containers, so that people that want to participate in this volunteer program for this pilot study, they could have their weights measured of how much waste they set out, recycling and food scraps, as far as in pounds, and then it could be tracked over a period of time until this pilot study is over. And then there's an online portal that they can view, which I will explain in a bit, and that shows how well and efficient you were at saving money. It'll show you the amount you've set out each week, and then it will also compare you to other households that are participating in this program as well, which is quite interesting. And there's a focus group, and the survey we developed collaboratively between the University of Dubuque, City of Dubuque, and IBM. There were 110 of the 304 volunteers in the Smarter Discards pilot study that responded to our survey, so we got quite a large number of respondents. The questionnaire had open-ended response questions. It had some behavioral questions, and then it also had questions with Likert scale responses, which had a symmetry of categories with a scale of 1 to 5, whether they strongly agreed, all the way down to strongly disagreed. And the volunteers themselves, they were allowed to view and analyze their behavior and habits of residents and compare them to others. And the picture on the right there is called a kitchen catcher, if you're not familiar with that. And if they signed up to be a volunteer for this program, they were given these as part of it was almost like a package deal that the City of Dubuque would send out. And I helped in assisting with that. And this would be for under their kitchen sink or wherever they would like to place it, and then it could be used for food scraps and anything they wanted to use for composting, and they could have compostable bags inside of them. So after a few days, when they were ready to take that out, they could take it to their compost bin and then replace it with a new bag, which is very handy. And then also a new thing they introduced was green points. Excuse me. Introduced green points, which was a combination of various activities they did. So participating in our survey, they received a certain amount of green points, and they could track this on their online portal as well. And at certain points, they would achieve a certain milestone and receive various rewards, whether that was monetary, whether that was recognition. There were various things they could earn through those green points. And the Smarter Discards portal, like I said, it was an online portal, and it displayed the data of their waste, which was called refuse, and then recycling and food scrap material amounts for their weekly pickups. And then, let's see, I'll go to the next one. And this is just a screenshot of what this looks like. And as you can see right here, the total savings from diversion, it explains, was $1.14. And the rank for this case was 6th among 40 households, and that was comparing the efficiency of what this household was setting out on a week-to-week basis, and then comparing to other households. And then the far right is the green points that have been accumulated up to a couple days ago. And then here's another section that shows you, since the beginning of this pilot study began, it shows the amount of recycling and refuse you've set out. And then also it explains how many pounds it would take for this to equal either be at 0 on the left here or compare it to a motorcycle. Could fill the volume of a motorcycle. And some of the equipment that was installed for this project to take place is, on the left here is a picture of the City of Dubuque trucks, and if you can't read that, it says there are LED lights that change colors for each container that's recorded. So when they would scan the RFID tags and then weigh the amount, enter that into the system, and then they would press a button on the truck, and if that lit up green, then they were set for that particular household. And then on the right, as I said, RFID tags, that's what they looked like, and they were placed onto many different bins and recycling containers throughout the city. And here's a picture on the left of some of those buttons. They were the places that were installed on mainly garbage trucks, but they were also on some of the recycling as well. They were still in the process of that. And the picture on the right is of myself placing RFID tags onto a recycling bin. So here are some of the volunteer survey open-ended questions. One example was, are there other reasons that you sometimes discard things that could be recycled? And some of the responses were, for me, I have a hard time remembering what the numbers all mean on plastic items, so I end up throwing away some things if I am unsure of what that number means. Another response was, recycling food scraps costs more to the consumer, $1 more per month, and we should be compensated, not charged more. And another open-ended question was, do you have any other thoughts about recycling, composting, this project, or anything in general that you'd like to share with us? And one response was, I think people don't recycle because they are lazy, my spouse included. I constantly recycle his trash. And one last comment was, I am motivated just by the fact that I am preserving the earth and our health. Others may be motivated by monetary rewards. I cannot speak for them. So as you can see, there's a wide variety of motivational factors that pushed people to recycle and compost for various reasons. And then the next few slides will show survey and behavioral questions. And these were the 5 options that people were allowed to choose from. Strongly agree, agree neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. And that was on a scale of 1 to 5. So you'll see that on various charts on the next couple slides. And this is what motivates people to recycle and compost. As you can see here, there's quite a similarity between these responses, and the highest one happened to be to leave the world in a better place than it already is. Happened to be the #1 response of why people recycle and compost, and the lowest amount was to be like others. What would best motivate you to recycle and compost more? And as you can see, understanding the benefits. So a big thing that was stressed to us through this survey was if there were educational seminars or information for them to learn more about recycling and the process of composting, that they may be more interested and more intrigued by participating in this. So that was something that we definitely take into effect, and hopefully the city will be able to implement that into their future plans. And rate your agreement with each of the following statements about obstacles to curbside recycling. And the highest response was they didn't know what they could recycle and what they couldn't. So it kind of goes back to the last answer, is uncertainty about what they're doing or if they're doing the right process. So education is a pretty big factor, we found out in this, for people in Dubuque. And rate your agreement with each of the following statements about obstacles to recycling food scraps. And with food scraps being a fairly new process, one of our biggest concerns before that we even sent the survey out was that I found with the volunteer kits, which happen to be the kitchen catchers and things for them to help recycle their food scraps, happened to be the cleanliness issue. So it really was hard to stress to them how it is fairly simple, but it can be messy. So one of the things that was introduced was compostable bags, and as long as you don't let it sit too long, the compostable bags won't sag at the bottom and become saturated. But as long as you replace them within a certain amount of time, it'll work out, and there shouldn't be too many cleanliness issues, which was something we stressed. And then another question, how often did you discard a recyclable in the trash and why? And these were fairly low responses. Biggest one on the right was they didn't want to drop it off. So it might go back to the open-ended response questions where they may be lazy or they just didn't have time. And as I mentioned before, Full Circle Organics partnered with the City of Dubuque for food scraps and composting. And this is a picture of Dave Hermson. He is the owner of this facility in Farley. And it can handle up to 39 tons of food residuals daily. And as I said before, it saves about $33,000 on an annual basis and reduces methane and other greenhouse gases by sending this to be composted and then reused in our soil rather than placed in the landfill. And some of their missions and goals, they're dedicated to successfully managing a multi-location cooperative of compost facilities and reducing the amount of organic waste added to landfills. And, with 40% of organic compostable materials currently in landfills, Full Circle Organics Recycling Co-op continues to expand partnerships and new sites, and I believe Farley was the 4th or 5th location that it's called Midwest Organics, and that they've opened. So we got the opportunity to take a visit out there this past summer, and it's just a little snapshot of the process. So the city trucks here are dropping off their collection. The second part is that they would take them out to windrows, and there were 3 or 4 windrows, and the biggest thing was, he mentioned, was temperature inside the piles to make sure that there's enough circulation and airflow. And then the third step here is he has a machine that would run through the windrows and mix up the piles and then create a more air. Then the fourth one is close to the finished product. It wasn't entirely done on this windrow, but it was the closest thing to it. So then they could be either given to farmers, sold to people that needed them for their gardens. I mean, he was still in the process of trying to figure out where the soil could go and what he was going to do with it, but he had a lot of good ideas. How this research will alter my behavior toward waste and recycling. So I don't know if I mentioned this, I am a business major, so the real question you might be thinking is, how did I get into this, since it's science related? But it also, like I said before, it also kind of related to business because the sustainability aspect is not only environmental, but it's economical and social. So had a combination of everything, but how this will apply to my future, definitely in agriculture and soil conservation. It will affect the way I look at how I live my life and how others live their lives, because if we don't take care of the world we have now, then there may not be one in the future. I mean, there might be, but it's something that we have to can't take for granted. And then also in the future with my children and family, like I said, it's something that I want to strive and make it a priority in my life. And some of the suggestions that we were going to make to the City of Dubuque after this project was, based on the survey and research that we've conducted, we figured out what motivates and doesn't motivate people. And like I said before, the 2 largest things that stood out was monetary incentives and educational factors. So people were interested in incentives, if they received rebates or cash or anything like that, if they improved their performance with recycling and using less waste, and then also better education regarding composting and various processes that they were unsure of or needed a little education on. And future research, they'll apply these motivational incentives in the future toward Dubuque residents to lessen the energy barrier and hopefully be cost effective to the city. As you can see, it already is with the food scrap program, and if they continue to grow like they have, it'll continually grow. And the effectiveness of this program will still be able to be tracked via the online portal, which is a nice thing to have because they'll be able to take data directly from there and then analyze that for future use. And some acknowledgements on this project. Joe and Linda Clappity, obviously, because without their generosity, this wouldn't have been possible. Adam Hoffman and Rafik Sano were my two co-advisors. They helped greatly with any questions, any support, anything I needed help with, and they were a huge help. And Paul Schultz as well from the city of Dubuque. IBM Research for partnering with the city on this project and pilot study. The Dubuque Metropolitan Area Solid Waste Association, and they provided a lot of good information and some educational resources for me that I hadn't previously had. Full Circle Organics, and Bev Wagner, who is also part of the Dubuque metropolitan area. And she helped out with various programs and seminars that I attended. So thank you.